We are out here at National Police Week in Washington, D.C. at the FBI headquarters. I'm joined by Matthew Silverman and by FBI Director Kash Patel. And today we're going to have a conversation about the agency and all of the accomplishments so far and what we could expect next.
And I appreciate that, Kyle. Thank you for taking the time. And Director, thanks for coming out with us. Let's start off with that question right there. Biggest accomplishments?
Well, first of all, it's Police Week, so it's great to see our partners from around the country. We saw some of them this morning. We'll see them throughout the week. It's great to honor the fallen who paid the ultimate price. And what it takes is what they represent, the interagency at the federal government, our state and local partners. And we came together with y'all over the last year, 15 months or so, and had historic accomplishments in reducing crime. Look, we dropped the murder rate 20 points. That in and of itself, if we just did that alone, would be a massive achievement for law enforcement. But because of the drive, I think, fueled by President Trump backing the blue, we were able to do so much more. I mean, we went out there and we got 8 of the FBI's top 10 most wanted in 13 months. And just to put that in perspective, we took 8 off the board. In the prior 4 years before President Trump got back in office, they had 4 in 4 years. And so we're doing things like that, but we're also doing things like attacking the drug trade that's killing so many of our kids. The FBI took off, I think, 2,300 kilograms of fentanyl last year. That was a 31% increase, enough to kill 178 million Americans. We're protecting our most vulnerable. We're going after those that prey on our kids. We found and located 6,300 missing kids. That's, I think, almost a nearly 30% increase from the year before we got into office in these positions. You can go down these statistics and people always say, well, why are you just rifling off stats? And I was like, because no one wants to cover what's behind the statistics. I mean, these are families and communities we've safeguarded. And then we haven't even talked about the national security mission, where have had the most successful year on dismantling scam center compounds overseas that are robbing our seniors of literally billions of dollars. And spy actors, we've had more spy arrests at this FBI last year. We're up 44% from 2024 from China, Russia, and Iran. Those looking to steal our nation's secrets, not just military and intelligence secrets, but agricultural secrets. And so we're covering down on a large swath of criminality across the world, and we're doing it with our partners.
Director, it's got to be like trying to drink from a fire hose, right? There's so much that falls on your shoulders and the FBI's shoulders. How do you begin to prioritize and separate, okay, this is a small issue, relatively speaking, that needs attention, but now we have a national security threat over here. How do you as a director even begin to prioritize?
You do the one thing that I don't think the Bureau had done, and the one thing that the priorities are set by the administration. President Trump has been so pro-law enforcement and so for safeguarding Americans' lives, be it here in the U.S. or overseas, that mission set has been clearly laid out. What we have to do is deliver for it. And what we do is things like the following. When I first got here, I said, how do we take on the micro level stuff? We got to take on each victim, each case, and give them each one the same amount of time and dedication as the macro level stuff. How do we reduce crime overall? When I got here, we had in the national capital region, the 70 miles around Washington, D.C., the FBI had 1/3 of our workforce here, which I didn't understand that when we have nearly 400 offices across the country and another 100 plus offices overseas. So I said, if the crime were here, just here, then I understood that footprint. But the bureaucracy was here over the last 10, 15, 20 years. So I took 1,000 agents and I permanently pushed them out into the field. Behind that, I sent 300 or 400 intelligence analysts from here, headquarters, pushed them out to the field because intelligence, you guys know this, drives operations. And they don't drive them from D.C., they drive them from Kansas and New Mexico and Oregon and wherever else. And so those big ship movements, along with removing the bureaucracy, the guys in the field know what the priorities are. They're a little different in each AOR, as you guys know that. But overall, the headquarters component should be doing one thing, getting out of their way, and giving them what they need to do the job that they signed up to do. I can't teach them how to be a better cop or an agent. They know how to do that. So we've had these resounding historic results because the field is energized and resourced in a way that they've never been resourced. So I think that's how, while we set some of the priorities here globally, the field takes that and says, this is what's specifically happening in Los Angeles. We got to get after localized street gangs, for an example. And they go and do it. And then crime comes down.
So how do you begin to take all of that intelligence and then turn that into operations, especially when you have multiple federal agencies that you're often working with, like the Memphis Task Force, right?
Yeah, those are great examples. The President's Task Force is in Washington, D.C. and Memphis. 2 cities. Memphis had the highest per capita homicide rate in the country when I took this job, which I didn't know until I got here. And D.C., we knew, just had a historic rise in crime, whether it's murders and drugs and guns. And so the President came in and said, we're going to clean up these 2 cities that people said couldn't be cleaned up. And what we did was, again, we said the intel is in the field. The intel is with our partners, our state and locals. The intel is with our joint collaboration with DHS and DEA and ATF and whatnot. And so we pushed it all out into the field. We said drive actual intelligence operations behind the high visibility stuff. And the president was able to reduce the murder rate in Memphis by, I think, by 63 points. Here in Washington, D.C., he reduced it by 54 points in 3-4 months. And that's what happens when we always say it around here, you let good cops be cops. You just go do what they knew how to do. And every agent I come across now in the field or every cop I come across says the same thing. We are finally getting to do what we signed up to do.
You know, so much of what you said resonates with me. Being able to be a cop, being able to get out there on the streets and do the things that we signed up to do is 100% bringing up morale. And you can see that. You got to get rid of the bad actors, of course, but we got to get the people out on the streets that want to do it. And I'll tell you, what you just said about moving people out of headquarters into those districts or field offices is a huge way to show that you're standing behind the men and women that are out there. But going off of that, let's talk about state and local law enforcement, the partnerships. I had the opportunity to be on the FBI Joint Terrorism Task Force, one of the greatest things I've ever done. Can you talk about how important state, local, with feds to run and maintain the organization is?
That's it. I mean, it's everything. You know, we set up our JTTFs or our Safe Streets Task Force or our Homeland Security Task Forces around the country. Task forces is what law enforcement does. And you can't do them without state and local and tribal officers. You just can't. They are the best investigative partners we have in the field. They know the area better than we ever will, better than any federal agent can possibly ever know, because they, chances are, grew up there, had a family there, went to school there, and are staying there to be cops there. And so they come in and give you that ground level intelligence that they know specifically to New York or to Detroit or St. Louis or what have you. And they say, no, we have this problem. We know you want to get rid of gangs and drugs, but this is where it's coming from. It's not coming from overseas directly for them. That's our business to deal with. It's coming from these hubs that are distributing them and bringing them into our cities. So those investigative partners, and when I was on the JTTF in New York myself, it was the best work because everybody in those task forces has one thing in common. I have never met somebody on those task forces that cares about the credit. The only thing they ask for is, can you just get us what we need to do what you're asking us to do and not get in our way? And that's what we did. We just eliminated bureaucracy after bureaucracy, approvals. The best example, I think, actually coming back to one of your top questions was, what do we do to help that? Task force officers across the country, right? The FBI needs them everywhere. I got here and there was a 12-month backlog on clearing task force officers. So we're inviting our cops to come in and sit on these task forces, but then we're saying, hang on a year, and then we'll come back to you. By then, they got promotions, families, moves, things they want to get to. So we cleared our entire backlog of 650 task force officers. It's now at 0. And if you want to onboard new task force officers, it is no longer a 12-month. It is a 60-day cap. And we only went to a secret level clearance requirement instead of the TS level requirement. So now when we're asking our partners to join us, they can actually join almost right away. That in and of itself, putting the task force officers where we need them, when we need them, and allowing us, the Bureau now, for the first time in history, we deputize our own. We don't send it out to another agency. We do it ourselves. The SACs in the field are responsible, and they do it immediately.
Director, we looking at some of the challenges that you've had since taking this position. You have the natural challenges associated with running a large agency, but then the diversification in terms of geography of where you're putting people. I have to imagine there's been pushback within the department because God knows we've seen it in the media. The media, which would kind of block and tackle under the previous administration for the FBI, has come at you hard. So let's talk about some of the challenges that you face that are outside of just the standard security issues you're dealing with.
Yeah, look, when the media's been coming after me and a lot of people in this administration for a long time, and I've always said, if they're coming after me, fine, we're winning. Look at the media coverage now. Is anyone complaining about the drop in murder rate? Is anyone complaining about the amount of narcotics we seize off the streets? Is anyone complaining about the animals we're capturing around the world? Is anyone complaining about the great partnerships that President Trump has that let us do things like we did and when we went to Beijing last fall after his trip to Busan and eliminated the pipeline for fentanyl precursors? These are things that everyone said were impossible. They're not complaining about that. They're complaining about things that they make up to help basically take actual good reporting that they should be doing, making up false information to take away from our successes. But the thing is, it doesn't matter to me. It doesn't matter to anyone here in DC. When we go across the country, when you guys go home, you're seeing the results and the communities are safer than they've ever been.
When at your confirmation hearing, you had your family out there with you. One of my favorite things about it was you talking about your childhood and how that sort of inspired you to be where you are today, both in terms of your values, your family values, your faith values, but then also your constitutional values. I want to kind of go back to your backstory about how you came into this position, going back to the early days and why that is still a core of who you are.
My best laid plans, right? I'm here singularly because of cops. I grew up in New York, son of immigrants my parents fled a genocidal dictatorship, lawfully emigrated to the United States of America. We were protected and secure in our education and our family, had a safe neighborhood because of police. Just never forgot that. What we're trying to do here is take that American dream that I'm living, literally, their kid's now the director of the FBI, can't happen anywhere else in the world. And we got to give it back to everybody. We got to give it back so everybody who has a family, who's got a kid, can go out there and do that. And the only way that's possible, the only way, is through law enforcement safeguarding everyone, not just this sector of the community or of the economy or what have you. And that's what police do. They do it every day. They barely get recognized for it in this media. And what I'm doing is showing off their work because it's their work. They are doing it at speed and levels that have not been even discussed by the fake news media. They're getting it done on top of the attacks. And that's what energizes me. When we go out there and we see the agents and the cops and the sheriffs doing the work, I'm like, they're doing it. They're getting it done.
Director, I have to just ask this. You had a pretty big audience before you came into this role. You had people who loved you, people who admired you. You still do. You could go make massive amounts of money doing anything but a job that's probably going to prematurely age you based on the stress.
Yeah.
So why? Why do you still do what you do? Tell me about what drives you from a service perspective, like you were talking about.
That's just it. When you sign up to serve, this is year 18 for me in total. You're driven by the desire to deliver the results you want to see happen in society. And everybody that wears the badge out there does the exact same thing. So the drive is no different for me. The money, whatever, maybe it'll come on the back end, maybe it won't, who cares? Who else gets to do this? Being a cop, being an agent, being a sheriff, being a tribal law enforcement officer. I mean, to me, it's the best job in the world. And I know that because of what we're achieving together is making a difference and driving us together. But I also know that because every good TV show or series out there is about us. They wouldn't be trying to copy us if they didn't want to be us. And so that in of itself says we're getting it done. We got more to do. We always got more to do. But with President Trump's backing, we've been able to do in 14, 15 months what this place, being DC, have been talking about for decades. And the fact that he delivered it, these results that we talked about, I think they hate him for it because he did what they said they would do and never got done.
Under the previous administration, we saw a really big disconnect between local and state law enforcement and the FBI. We saw a lot of boots on the ground who said, I don't trust the FBI anymore, and you've transformed that. When your name comes out of the mouths of officers on the street now at the local and state level, it is nothing but praise. It is nothing but gratitude to President Trump for putting you in this position, for the support that you bring them. What message do you have for them?
Two things. It ain't about me, it never will be. Time will long hopefully forget me, but hopefully time won't forget the law enforcement community we built. When I got here, I said, we are going back to prioritizing our relationship with law enforcement. We cannot do it alone. It doesn't happen, not just at the federal level, but at the state and local level. We have got, so that I set my SACs out into the field. We cleared the leadership headset here at headquarters, replaced nearly every one of our field leaders. And I said, you guys have always wanted the power, now it's yours. Go out there and get those relationships back in check. Go out there and show them that we are going to stand behind them and not ask them to do something that endangers their life and not show up to support them. That messaging is hard to write down on paper and sort of capture and show off to the world. But I think what you said resonates with me the most. When we go out to the field, when we're out there talking to our partners, they're saying that. They're saying the change that is occurring now under this administration was one they've been waiting for 10, 15 plus years for. And that tells me again that we're going in the right direction.
FLEO is obviously the largest nonprofit, nonpartisan professional organization representing 65 different agencies, 35,000 federal agents, working hand in hand with everybody from the administration so we can better society. That's what we want to do. And you hit on a lot of points. And being a nonpartisan organization, we watch the stuff that President Trump is doing and people that he put in place like you are out there doing. And we have nothing but praise to give to you and every other director for fighting crime and keeping those crime statistics down as low as possible. But whatever you do and whatever he does, you're going to have those haters. It doesn't matter if you're curing cancer or you're doing anything like that. How do you deal with the negativity? How do you deal with the people talking bad?
They've been doing it since I led the investigation for Russiagate and exposed, the largest weaponization of law enforcement. The people that are writing those stories don't represent the people we're protecting. And they have a right to write whatever they want, whatever lies they want. They can do that. That's fine. But you got to drown that out, just like every cop does across America. You got to drown it out because you signed up to do something they will never do. They don't have it. They don't have what it takes to do it, but they want all of the good that comes from it. And that's fine. We're here to give it to every American, every single one of them, especially the ones that yell at us the most. That's when I know it's working. When you're over the target, all you have to do is listen to the echo chamber, and it's never been as loud as it's been now. And the only thing left to do after that is continue to pummel the target.
So fraud, holy cow. I mean, there were certain things that were on my bingo card for 2026, but aliens and the kind of widespread fraud that we're seeing right now were probably not two of them. We're seeing everything from on the Act Blue investigation to what's happening in states like Minnesota and California. Where's that whole investigation going, and how do you even begin to prioritize that with so much coming in?
Well, that's just it. You have to make everything a priority. Otherwise, nothing is. You can't make one thing a priority. And the president said, we have to go reduce crime across the board, not just national security, not just counter narcotics, but fraud as well. We started in Minnesota. Last year, we had a $250 million takedown on the Feeding Our Futures program that was $250 million, supposed to go to kids who were starving. People were swindling. Legal aliens were taking it out of our country, and others. And so we started that process. And as you guys know, fraud cases take some time, but thankfully this administration saw fit to ignite the AAG for fraud, specifically under the vice president's leadership. And now we're working in places like California and across the country. The other piece of the fraud was, how are they using modern times, the internet and cell phones and applications online to scam our seniors out of billions of dollars? Well, that node rested with the scam center compounds in Southeast Asia, in places like Cambodia, Thailand, and Burma, and in places like we just did a massive takedown in Dubai last week. 300 arrests, 2,000 traffic victims freed, $4 billion scam center shut down. And we did that on the ground with the Dubai National Police, the FBI, and police officers from China in the MPS. Unheard of. But we also went to the countries. That's what the FBI can do. We stood up joint operations in Cambodia, Thailand, and Burma because the CCP is building their scam centers along their border regions. And we worked with our private sector partners to scuttle the compounds. So we're going to where their mothership of fraud is, and then they're perpetuating these online romance schemes or these online pension fraud schemes. And instead of waiting for them to perpetuate the fraud, we're crippling their ability to even stand up places to do that fraud. And that's the kind of work that doesn't get coverage. It would if it were another administration. But the fact that last year we took down a $15 billion crypto fraud and one arrest in Burma alone, the Prince Group, speaks to how much we're doing against fraud. But it also shows us that our adversaries are looking, and it's not just state actors, it's just people who want to be thieves and fleece Americans for their hard-earned savings. And they don't have a relationship necessarily directly with any one country. They just want to hurt us. And so we had to go on the ground and get after a fight there. And so you're going to see a large uptick this summer on those operations too, as we continue. And now we've built the blueprint on how we do this with our partners overseas who say, yeah, we want to help. And I don't think those breakthroughs could have been possible. I can call the leaders of these places in Southeast Asia or the Middle East. I can call my counterpart in China at the MPS and say, hey, I need a hand on this. And they help.
That's awesome.
I was going to say, I don't think that people understand how deep this actually goes, unless you're a child of a grandmother who was scammed out of all of her money and now has nothing. So I want to applaud you and applaud the FBI and all the partners that are out there doing this, because this work is something that is not, let's say, sexy, but it's something that needs to happen because we have too many seniors right now that are losing everything. I just want to touch base on, we talked about corporate partners, we talked about law enforcement partners. What about the community? What are we doing with the community? Because we need the community on our sides. And how in depth and what do you look for in the future with the FBI and how we're going to roll out community engagement?
Our best partner outside of law enforcement is the American people. They got to tell us information on, hey, I'm getting scammed. Hey, somebody's swatting me. Hey, somebody's coming after us or our community. We've redone the way the FBI receives information. This place used to run on a system built in the 80s for fighting crime in 2026. It just didn't work. Nobody took care of the infrastructure here. So we invited our private sector partners in. We've rebuilt our infrastructure in here, and we've brought in AI. I said, full sale, all AI is welcome. So I'll give you two examples. Our National Threat Operations Center, basically our ingest point 911 for the FBI writ large. We put AI into that so that we can triage the tips and information coming in, prioritize them, and connect them immediately to cases. And one example last year was we stopped the school shooting in North Carolina because immediately actioned a tip from AI out of our NTOC into the field, shared it with state and locals who had outreach to the community to say, hey, do you guys know exactly where this school might be? Sync that together and shut it down. And the same thing we're doing with places like CJIS, our Criminal Justice Information Center, our database, our hub in West Virginia. We've had all these people trying to change their fingerprints, alter them so that they can't get caught. We brought AI in with our private sector partners and basically outfitted a system that allowed us to go out there and capture people on state warrants, on federal warrants, murderers, rapists, all folks we would have missed because we don't have the human capacity to do it alone. We need AI. And we need the communities. So our community outreach through our Office of Law Enforcement Engagement has never been stronger because we need folks giving us information. You've seen the high-profile cases we do. What's one of the first things I do at any high-profile case? 1-800-CALL FBI. Mm-hmm. But if you don't have a mechanism to triage the data that's coming in, you're just leaving info and intel on the sidelines. So we have to fix that too.
Closing question for you, Director. What keeps you up at night? And I'm not talking about just generically, I want to make sure that everybody's safe. Like what is it that really sits in your soul that keeps you up?
The fear that we're going to miss something, that I think keeps every law enforcement officer up. Could have done X, could have done Y. And so what we try to do to counterman that fear is to make sure we're well-resourced, that we're fighting for every dollar on Capitol Hill, and that we're in the field. You can't do this job from here. So we go to our field offices. We go out there and host community law enforcement events. We go out there and just, as I say, go out there and shake a hand of a cop who's just walking down the street and just say thanks because he probably did something for you. You have no idea he did. That kind of outreach is how we are welcoming back American community and restoring the trust. Look, the reality of this place, the Bureau specifically, is the trust was eroded from here because of the weaponization of the last 5, 10, 15 years, because they used it to politicize law enforcement, go after political targets. And we deleted that. And we removed the people and the policies that led to that. No more Richmond Catholic memos. No more FBI showing up at school board meetings and telling parents how their kids should raise them because the FBI or the government said so. That was a system that was created over decades of corruption. And I think the American people now see that if the FBI and police can do what they set out to do without government getting in the way, that's something they are now proud of again.
Director, if I can just lead with this. FBI is probably the most world-renowned law enforcement agency. Everybody knows what the FBI does, for the most part, what they see on TV or what they hear. They don't know half of the stuff that FBI actually does and how many hands are in the pot over there to keep us all safe. Like you said, school shootings, fraud, Joint Terrorism Task Force stuff, and all of that. I want to know what's next from the FBI. What are we going to see from you next? What's the next mission?
Is to build a better bureau that can respond in 15, 20 years. And so what we invested heavily on, another non-sexy topic, is the business side of the house, the admin side of the house, taking care of the people here at the Bureau, the 36,000 people here, focusing on recruiting. We shrunk the pipeline, if you want to become an FBI agent, by 100 days at Quantico. We increased the National Academy classes, the police officer classes, the prize of the FBI. They said, we want more. We went to 300 per class instead of 250. We stood up the drone program school for our state and local partners at Redstone Arsenal, our advanced training center. We are offering these trainings and these relationship building activities across the board because they pay out for years and years and years and years to come. It's the thing that people ignore the most. It's like, how can you not take care of the people that are doing the job itself? And so if you go out and talk to folks that are here now, you'll see how much of the bureaucracy that we got rid of and how focused we are on actually taking care of the men and women at the FBI. That, I think, maybe more than anything else, sets the stage to bring in the next generation, but also takes care of the current one.
Awesome. Director, thank you for everything that you and your agency do every single day. Thanks for being what we would argue is probably the best FBI director our nation has ever seen. And thanks for how you continue to pour into our nation, serve and protect every single day. Thank you all for watching. Thanks for hitting that share button. God bless you all, and God bless America.